What if one night meant to be forgotten becomes the night that changes two lives forever? The dust storm rolled into Red Valley like a living thing, crawling across the plains and swallowing the small Montana town whole. Lanterns flickered. Horses whinnied in their stalls, wind clawed at shutters and made the streets moan like old ghosts. Inside the Silver Spur Saloon, warmth and music tried to fight off the storm. Men crowded around tables, shouting over cards and whiskey. Women in bright dresses moved through the room with practiced smiles. And at the far end of the bar sat the one man in town who never smiled, Jackson Hale. People whispered his name with a mix of fear and curiosity. A rancher who kept to himself. A man shaped by loss and hard winters, broad-shouldered, quiet as snowfall, carrying sorrow in the set of his jaw. He came to town only when work forced him to. Tonight, the storm had trapped him there. He pushed his empty glass forward. "Another," he said. The bartender opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, the saloon doors flew open with a loud crack. Wind howled inside, scattering cards and skirts. Heads turned. A woman stepped through the doorway. Not a saloon girl, not a traveler, not someone who belonged in a place like this. Her name was Monroe. She shook dust from her long coat, breathing hard from the storm she'd fought through. Her bonnet hung crookedly, and her dark hair glowed under the lamplight. Her eyes searched the room with both fear and fierce determination. She clutched a small leather bag to her chest as if her life depended on it. The room stared. Jackson stared too. It was the first time in months he felt anything shift inside him. Lily hesitated a moment, then approached the bar. She slid onto the stool beside Jackson, her breath still uneven. "Whiskey," she said softly. Her voice was shaken but strong. The bartender blinked. "Ma'am, this ain't really a place." "I said whiskey." Jackson almost smiled. Almost. She was trouble, but trouble with a brave heart. The bartender poured her a drink and moved away, leaving them alone in the noisy room. "You shouldn't be out in a storm like this," Jackson said quietly, eyes still on his glass. "I didn't have a choice." He glanced at her. "Something chasing you?" She swallowed hard. "Someone." Jackson felt tension tighten across his shoulders. The storm wasn't the only danger tonight. He studied her more carefully now. Her dress was simple but fine, now streaked with dust. Her boots were worn. Her hands trembled around the whiskey, but not from cold. Fear lived under her skin like a second heartbeat. "You running from a man?" he asked. "Yes." "A husband?" "No." "Family?" "No." Jackson nodded slowly. Not much information, but enough to see the shadows in her eyes. Whatever she was hiding, it was heavy. Lily took a slow sip of her drink, trying to steady herself. "I only need a place to stay for the night. Just one night. That's all. The storm cut me off from the road, and the boarding houses are full." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Why ask me?" "Because you're the only one not staring at me like you want something." She looked at him fully then, her eyes steady and shining with quiet fire. "You look like the only man here who won't try to take advantage." Jackson almost laughed, but the sound never made it out. Instead, he lifted his glass in a silent salute. "You don't know me, ma'am." "But I can read a man's eyes," she said. He held her gaze for a moment too long, and something passed between them, something sharp and warm and impossible to name. The storm outside roared louder, rattling the windows. Lily flinched. "If I can just stay somewhere safe until morning, I'll leave before anyone notices." Jackson knew he should say no. He lived miles from town, alone on a cold stretch of land where the mountains met the sky. Taking a stranger, especially a woman, there was asking for trouble, but something in her eyes struck him harder than the wind outside. "What's in the bag?" he asked. Her fingers tightened around it. "My life." That was enough. "Come with me," Jackson said, standing, her breath caught. "What?" "You need a safe place. I have one." Men around the saloon turned to look. Some muttered. Some eyed Lily with interest. One man in the corner, a scar across his cheek, stood and started toward her. Jackson saw it. And so did Lily, her face drained of color. "That him?" Jackson asked quietly. She didn't answer, but her silence was enough. Jackson stepped in front of her, just as the scarred man reached them. "She's with me," Jackson said. The man glared. "Move aside. She stole something from me." Lily shook her head. "He's lying." The scarred man smirked. "She took what wasn't hers, and I'm taking her back." Jackson's fist clenched, but his voice stayed calm. "You'll be walking out of this saloon one of two ways, on your feet or carried." The scarred man sneered. "Who the hell are you?" "Jackson Hale." Silence fell so fast, the piano player stopped mid-note. The man paled. Jackson didn't need to draw his gun. His name alone settled it. "Fine," the scarred man spat, "but this ain't over." He backed away slowly, then pushed through the saloon doors and disappeared into the storm. Jackson turned to Lily. "Let's go." She hesitated. "I don't want to cause you trouble." "You already have," he said simply. "Now come on." Outside, the storm swallowed them whole. Jackson lifted her onto his horse, then mounted behind her, his arms strong and steady around her as they rode into the night. Lily felt warmth spread through her chest, not fear this time, but something dangerous. Safety, trust, and something else she wasn't ready to name. Jackson rode with tense focus, but he felt it too. The shift, the pull, the spark. He promised himself it was only for one night. Just one. But deep down, he already knew. Some nights change everything. The storm did not ease as Jackson rode through the dark valley, guiding his horse along the narrow path toward his ranch. Winds slapped at them, cold and sharp. Rain turned the dirt to slick mud. Lily clung to his coat, her fingers trembling from more than the cold. Jackson felt her shiver and shifted slightly, shielding her from the sting of the wind. "Not far now," he said. She nodded against his shoulder, saying nothing, as if afraid her voice might break. He didn't press. Jackson Hale was a man who understood silence and what it protected. By the time they reached the ranch, the storm had lost its fury, settling into steady rain. His cabin stood against the mountains like an old soldier refusing to fall. Jackson slid off the horse and helped Lily down. She stepped onto the porch, breath trembling, eyes wide as she looked around. "This is your home?" she asked softly. "For now." She hesitated. "And I'm safe here?" "As long as you stay inside. No one comes out here unless they have a death wish." He opened the door, and warm firelight spilled across the porch. Lily stepped inside slowly, clutching her leather bag. The cabin smelled of pine and smoke, simple but homey. A table with sturdy chairs, a stone fireplace with burning logs, a bed tucked against the far wall, shelves full of tools and old books. Lily's eyes softened. "It's peaceful." "Storm can't touch you in here," Jackson said. She moved closer to the fire, warming her hands. He took her coat and hung it up to dry, watching her quietly. She was exhausted, shaken, but still holding herself with surprising strength. "Sit," he said gently. "I'll make coffee." She sat at the small table. Her leather bag never left her arms. Jackson poured water into a pot and set it on the fire. He could feel her watching him, trying to decide if she could trust him. "I should explain," she said finally. "You don't have to." "I want to." He turned to face her. "My name is Lily Monroe," she said softly. "I came west 2 weeks ago to be a pianist at the Crescent Hotel in Helena." He raised an eyebrow. "That fancy place near the rail line?" "Yes. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a new life." Jackson waited. But the hotel manager, he wasn't what he pretended to be. He had debts, dangerous ones. Her fingers tightened on the leather bag. "And when his debt collectors came, he tried to give me to them as payment." Jackson's jaw clenched. "The man at the saloon?" Lily nodded. "His name is Cutter Barnes. He works for a group that collects unpaid money in violent ways. When I realized what was happening, I grabbed something the manager owed him and ran." "What's in the bag?" Jackson asked quietly. Lily hesitated. Something valuable, something Cutter will kill to get back. I didn't steal it from him, I took it to survive. Jackson looked at her, searching her face. And you came through Red Valley because? It was the last train stop before he could track me. I thought I could disappear, but he followed me, faster than I expected. The coffee pot hissed softly. Rain fell against the cabin roof like a warning. Jackson finally spoke. You're not staying for just one night. Lily blinked. You told me. I know what I said, but that man won't stop. You're not walking back into that storm alone. Her eyes shimmered. Why are you helping me? He turned back to the fire. Because I've seen people hunted down before, men with power chasing those with none. I'm not letting it happen again. Again? She whispered. Jackson didn't answer. The coffee finished, and he poured 2 cups. Lily took hers, warming her fingers around it. For a few quiet minutes they sat across from each other, steam rising between them. Outside, the storm softened into distant thunder. Jackson, Lily said gently, what happened to you? Why does this matter so much? Quote, he didn't lift his eyes from his cup. Years ago, he said slowly, I was married. Her name was Rebecca. She was kind, soft-spoken, braver than she looked. One night, when I was away delivering cattle, a group of men came to our ranch, looking for money her brother owed. He wasn't there, so they took from her instead. Lily froze, breath caught in her throat. Jackson's voice stayed steady, but pain flickered behind his eyes. She didn't survive. I killed the men responsible, but it didn't bring her back. After that, I stayed away from people, safer for everyone. Lily's hand lifted slightly, as if reaching for him, then she lowered it. I'm sorry, she whispered. He nodded once. Silence settled over the room. Heavy, but honest. 2 broken pasts laid bare between them. Jackson, Lily said softly, I won't bring danger into your life. I'll leave in the morning. Quote, you're not going anywhere, he said firmly, not until Cutter Barnes is dealt with. Her chest rose with a shaky breath. She looked at him, truly looked, as if seeing the man beneath the hardened shell. You don't even know me, she whispered. That doesn't matter. Why? He met her gaze then, steady and unflinching. Because the night you walked into that saloon, his voice lowered, you looked like someone who'd been fighting the world alone for far too long. Lily swallowed hard, her eyes shining in the firelight. And you looked like a man who stopped fighting. He didn't answer, but the truth showed in his eyes. The storm outside faded into a soft rain. Inside the cabin, the air shifted. A slow warmth, a fragile understanding, a pull that neither of them could ignore. Then, suddenly, the sound of a horse outside. Jackson stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. Lily's breath caught. Is it him? Jackson moved to the rifle above the fire and loaded it with calm, heavy certainty. No one should be out here this late, he said. Stay behind me. Quote, Bootsteps approached the porch. Then a fist hammered on the door. Jackson Hale! A man's voice shouted. Open up! It's urgent! Jackson froze. Lily pressed a hand to her chest. Because the voice outside didn't belong to Cutter Barnes. It belonged to the sheriff. The knocking grew louder, shaking the wooden door. Jackson Hale, the sheriff's voice boomed. Open up! We need to talk! Now! Jackson kept the rifle raised as he stepped toward the door. Lily stayed behind him, her hand gripping the chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. Stay back, Jackson whispered. She nodded, her breath caught in her throat. The sheriff knocked again. It's urgent! Jackson finally pulled the door open. Sheriff Grant Lawson stood on the porch, soaked from the rain, hat dripping, badge catching the lantern light. His horse paced nervously behind him. The sheriff stepped inside, shutting out the storm. His eyes scanned the cabin, landing briefly on Lily before returning to Jackson. You got company? He said flatly. Explain why you're here. Jackson replied. The sheriff pulled a folded telegram from his coat. This came tonight from Helena. Lily stiffened. Jackson took the telegram and read silently. His jaw tightened. What is it? Lily whispered. He handed the paper to her. She unfolded it with shaking fingers. The message was short. Cutter Barnes heading to Red Valley. Dangerous. Armed. Wants woman, WHO. Took his property. Be ready. Lily swallowed hard. He knows I'm here. Grant nodded. He rode through the last checkpoint 2 hours ago. He's coming with 3 men, all meaner than wolves. Jackson lowered the rifle slowly. Then we'll end this tonight. The sheriff shook his head. You can't face him alone. Barnes isn't like the drunks you throw out of saloons. He's smart, ruthless. Jackson stepped closer. He's coming for her. He won't leave unless one of us is dead. You understand that? Grant sighed. Yeah, I do. Lily's voice trembled. Sheriff, I didn't steal anything. The hotel manager owed Barnes money, and he tried to give me to them like I wasn't even a person. Grant glanced at her softly. Miss, I believe you, which is why I'm here. If Barnes catches you, he won't stop until he gets what he wants. Jackson looked at the sheriff. We got an hour, maybe less? Less, the sheriff said. The storm slowed them, but not by much. They'll reach your property before dawn. Jackson nodded once. Then we prepare. Grant tapped the telegram. You should bring her to town, safer there. Jackson shook his head. Town's full of hiding places, but none meant for her. Out here, it's just us. We see them coming. The sheriff knew arguing was pointless. Jackson Hale wasn't a man who listened to fear. Fine, Grant said, but I'm staying. He helped Jackson secure the windows, reinforce the door, load the guns. Lily watched them move with calm, practiced urgency, men preparing for a fight they didn't expect to survive easily. She felt guilt twist in her chest. This is my fault. Jackson turned sharply. No, it's Barnes' fault. I brought danger into your home, she whispered. You brought a storm, Jackson corrected softly. And storms can be survived. Quote. He stepped closer. Lily, I'm not letting anything happen to you. Her breath hitched. The world outside faded. In that moment, the danger, the fear, the storm, all disappeared beneath the weight of his vow. You don't even know what's inside the bag, she whispered. I don't need to. Why not? He brushed a strand of hair from her cheek, his voice low and steady. Because the night you walked into that saloon, I knew I'd protect you. One night. That's all it took. Her heart beat like thunder. Before she could respond, the sheriff called out, Riders coming! Jackson spun, rifle raised. Lily rushed to the window. 4 dark shapes appeared through the rain. Horses. Men. Moving slow and silent. Cutter Barnes had arrived. The men dismounted 20 yards from the cabin. Cutter stood in front. Broad, scarred, and smiling like he already tasted blood. He shouted through the storm. Jackson Hale, send out the girl and the bag. Do that, and we ride away. No trouble. Jackson opened the door and stepped onto the porch. Rain soaked him instantly, but he didn't flinch. You come near this cabin again, Jackson said, voice calm and cold, and I'll bury you myself. Cutter laughed. You must want to die tonight. Jackson raised the rifle. Come find out. Gunfire exploded. Sheriff Grant ducked behind the table, returning fire through the window. Jackson fired from the doorway. Cutter's men scattered, taking cover behind barrels and rocks. Lily crouched low behind the bed, heart pounding. The bag sat beside her, heavy with the secrets it carried. Glass shattered above her. A bullet tore through the wall. Lily, stay down, Jackson shouted, but then she heard it. Footsteps on the porch. Someone was coming through the side entrance. She grabbed Jackson's revolver from the table and pressed herself against the wall. Her breath shook as the latch on the side door lifted. The door creaked open. Cutter Barnes stepped inside, soaked, gun raised, grin, sharp as a blade. There you are, he said softly. Lily pointed the revolver at him. Don't come closer. Cutter laughed. You won't shoot. You're not that type. Quote. Lily's hand trembled, but she didn't lower the gun. You want to know what's in the bag? She said, voice firming. It's proof. Cutter paused. Proof your boss kept ledgers of every lie, every crime, every murder he paid for. The debt wasn't money. It was his entire operation. And I took it so he couldn't bury it. Cutter's smile vanished. You opened it, he growled. I opened everything. His jaw clenched. Then you're not leaving this cabin alive. He aimed at her. A gunshot boomed. Cutter staggered back, shock washing across his face. Jackson stood behind him, rifle smoking. Cutter hit the floor. The room fell silent, except for the rain. Jackson moved to Lily instantly. Are you hurt? She shook her head, tears streaming even as she tried to smile. You came. I told you, he said, pulling her close. I'm not losing you. Outside, the sheriff's voice rang out. All clear. They're down. Lily buried her face in Jackson's chest, her body trembling with relief. His arms wrapped around her, strong and steady, holding her like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it. You're safe now? He murmured. No, she whispered against him. Not safe. He pulled back, worried. What do you mean? She touched his face gently. Because I'm falling for you, Jackson Hale. And that scares me more than Cutter Barnes ever could. His breath caught. Lily lifted her chin slightly. Tell me I'm wrong. Jackson cupped her face in both hands, his voice low and raw. You're not wrong. One night with you, Lily, and I'll never be the same. He kissed her then, slow, deep, certain, a kiss that claimed and gave in equal measure. A kiss that melted every wall he'd built since the day he lost his first love. The storm outside quieted. Inside the cabin, something new began. A new heart, a new hope, a new life. One night had changed everything, and neither of them would ever forget it.